Welcome everyone. My name's Eddie Carrasco, and this is my first YouTube video on this channel. And I guess a little bit about myself. I'm actually a machine learning engineer at Microsoft, and my main focus is on the cloud consulting side to actually help companies scale out their machine learning solutions. I think for my first video, I kind of wanted to talk to you about how to get into machine learning. So I've gotten a lot of messages over LinkedIn on like, how do you get started? How do you do data science? How do you build machine learning models? How do you make them scale? And I thought instead of answering a lot, I thought I'd actually just give a couple book recommendations on how to actually implement machine learning overall. So a couple of these are going to be from beginner to more complex solutions, if you will. So let's actually start off with the first book. So the first book I usually recommend to anyone who kind of wants to get started with machine learning is actually Hands-on Machine Learning with Scikit-Learn. This book is kind of old, but it has a couple reprints out. A couple reasons why I really like this book. It kind of covers the basics of classic machine learning, which is using classical algorithms such as regression, logistic regression, unsupervised techniques as well, such as PCA, which is principal component analysis, clustering, and other sort of things. But it also teaches you kind of more proper ways of how Python is kind of done in the standard of machine learning and data science. So I highly recommend this book for anyone who wants to get started in learning machine learning and kind of learn data science as a whole. I really like it because it also just gives practical machine learning and data science advice as well, and recommendations on how to implement as well. Okay, so the next book I really recommend is kind of doing more modern data science and machine learning, which kind of involves deep learning. So the next book recommendation is actually Deep Learning with Python. This is actually by, I can't really pronounce his name, but it's actually by the author of Keras, which is a very popular deep learning library to help you build out machine learning solutions very easily using deep learning in Python. Most of this book is based on TensorFlow, which is kind of Google's machine learning framework. And it's really good overall. I really like it because it kind of goes over the basics examples of modern deep learning architectures, and it kind of guides you from beginning to end, from anything from like more traditional feed-forward networks to more complex autoencoders, as well as transformers at the end. So I really recommend this book for anyone who wants to get started with machine learning and deep learning and kind of learn what the modern architectures and behind the modern architectures of machine learning algorithms are. The next book I actually recommend is this new one I just finished reading, and it's called Deep Learning for Coders Using Fast AI and PyTorch. What I really like about this book is it's actually written by the author who wrote Fast AI. And to be quite honest, there's a lot of different frameworks with machine learning and deep learning out there. But the two leading ones right now, I would say, is definitely going to be PyTorch, as well as TensorFlow and Keras. But what I like about Fast AI is that the professor, Jeremy Howard, actually has an online class you could actually follow with the book. And he kind of goes over a lot of basics of deep learning as well as kind of covering new technology. So I really enjoyed the book, highly recommend it, because it's one of the reasons I really like it is because not only is it very easy to understand for any coders and developers, he doesn't go too in depth as much as some people would like, but it's enough to understand and be able to communicate with other people who are doing machine learning. So I highly recommend this book. Great GitHub and active, community around Fast AI, and he covers a lot of other sort of libraries and frameworks for machine learning as well in the course. So highly recommend this book. Probably my favorite one so far. So the next one I'm actually going to recommend is going to be for people who kind of have a really good grasp of machine learning overall, have a good grasp of deep learning, have picked out a framework, really have mastered a lot of the traditional architectures for deep learning, and that's actually going to be deep reinforcement learning. And this book actually is really interesting because it's based on a Udacity course, if anyone's done this, and it's actually called Deep Reinforcement Learning. I took it myself a couple years ago and still kind of didn't grasp the concepts the best. But with this book, what I like is that the author actually has really good analogies on how to go over and practice a lot of machine learning, but also has really good coding examples. Covers everything from in-depth to very simple. What I like is that the author has a very active community with his code, which is very interesting. So I highly recommend anyone who wants to learn deep reinforcement learning or just learn the basics really to really read this book. And the final book I'm actually going to recommend is a very interesting one because most of these have kind of covered machine learning from understanding concepts to actually starting to build traditional algorithms. But the other one that I highly recommend anyone is actually going to be a one for designing systems and implementing these systems into production. Designing machine learning systems into production, an iterative process for production. And what I really like about is that the author, she actually is an expert, and she's actually worked as a machine learning engineer in Netflix, founded her own company, and actually has taught a ML ops or machine learning operations course on this topic. So she really knows what she's talking about. And what I like about it is that it works with any sort of environment. So you could start from scaling small to scaling large. So it could start off with, let's say, for example, just using a simple web page to deploy a model, to actually scaling out a solution to multiple servers and Kubernetes systems. So it kind of guides you and kind of gives you a lot of the learnings, if you will, on how to build these systems and make them scalable. Highly recommend it for anyone who wants to learn ML ops. The thing about machine learning is that the landscape is always changing, right? A couple years ago, NLP and large language models were not so popular. And now with ChatGPT and other Llama from Facebook and all these other sort of like large language models, machine learning has kind of really grown and blown up in the last few years. So these are kind of, I guess you could say, the 5 books I really recommend to anyone who kind of wants to learn, but doesn't want to necessarily take a course or, let's say, jump into a master's program. These books will kind of give you a really good understanding of how machine learning is done in the industry, but also give you very practical examples and coding examples to actually learn how to build these things out. If you like these sort of videos, please subscribe to my channel. I'll be covering a lot of topics ranging from kind of AI itself to machine learning and everything in between, as well as other sort of like tech reviews, as well as developer-friendly videos. So if this sort of thing interests you, let me know, subscribe, and yeah, let me know what other books you would recommend if you're a machine learning engineer. Till next time, later.